In the year 2000, my favorite turn-based RPG came out. I was 5 and wouldn't end up playing it for almost 20 years, but Final Fantasy IX left an impact on me when I finally got around to play it that few games have since. Everything about it, from the themes, characters, world building, music, like listen to this intro for a second. It's such a good game and I will always love it. Mechanically, it even has my favorite progression mechanic for learning passive abilities and making builds. A system that games still use to great success. What I'm trying to say is I really like Final Fantasy IX. It's been one of my all-time favorite games since I've played it, and it's my favorite classic party-based RPG. Enter Chained Echoes. A whole 30-plus hour indie RPG made mostly by one guy. And the main focus of this video, as you probably guessed from the title and thumbnail. I beat this game a while back and I've been itching to make a dedicated video for it because it rocks. This game was a great experience for someone like me who loves turn-based games, but tends to get burnt out by them quickly when they get too close to the standard formula. Which is a formula Chained Echoes wears on its sleeve but soars over with innovations. Quick editor note here, I'm not entirely sure if the things I love about this game are entirely unique, it's just the first game I've played that has these, so if you know any other games with the things I talk about in this video, let me know! I've talked about Chained Echoes combat in a few other videos, so you can check those out, but I'm gonna talk about it again here because I love it. Chained Echoes at the start is a pretty standard party of 4 gallivanting around, but it quickly changes things up when you get access to a 5th party member. They will head into another character's backline, letting you, the player, use all of, or almost all of, your characters in combat. Which makes sense, because they're always traveling together in these types of games. All of them are trying to save the world or kill God in these RPGs, but for some reason you can only go in with half of your companions you found, companions who are willing and able to help at all times. The term ludonarrative dissonance is talked about to death, but this is it in action. That your party of unlikely heroes wouldn't fight with all of their party, it's such a small and silly thing, but it really did a lot for me in Chained Echoes. Cause now when my blue mage that would normally be benched all game says, "Wow, that was a tough fight," it was! Well, not for the blue mage because he was still benched in this game, because all blue mages have to suck in these games, even though I love them. Fuck, I miss Monoko! So yeah, you won't use every character at all times when you start getting the side characters, but the main cast can fit in your group at all times, which is a nice touch. It's also just a balancing thing for most of these games. Having 4 characters out is easier to balance than having 8 possible characters out, but that sucks as a reason for me because I think Chained Echoes did it so well. It feels like something I'm going to want going forward in all games I play like this. What makes it work so well for me in this game is the team building it encourages through the gameplay. I've really come to hold team building as the main thing that keeps this type of RPG fun for me. The characters in Chained Echoes have pretty linear paths individually, using their unique strengths in tandem with the other characters is where the game gets more interesting. It turned into what characters would best benefit from other characters' skill sets, so I would have my main damaging character out with my buffing character to make them hit as hard as possible. Then when the buffing character finished buffing, I would tag in a status character to get damage over time effects and paralysis, which I could then use a skill on my damage character that does 3x damage to a paralyzed enemy. This is only the start of what you can do as well, because along with the base progression your characters get, there are also class emblems you can equip to every character as well, giving them status buffs and new temporary skills that they can learn over time to unlock the use of permanently. Some of them are really fun as well, like the Vampire, which hurts you when you attack but you deal more damage. It's an extra addition to your team building that gives you more individual player expression, but still guides you with the linear skill progression each character has. Like every turn-based game, you start to flow into a pattern with combat, at least when enemies didn't throw a wrench in your plans, which the mini-bosses and bosses did regularly with one of the other unique mechanics this game has. The funny little bar at the top of all combat is the core of what makes this game's combat as fun as it is. but also frustrating. The quick explanation of it is you want to keep it in the green and stay out of the red. Attacking and getting hit will make you go closer to the red, while defending and using a skill when it's colored yellow will make it move back into the green. It, for me, was a really fun part of the game because it was something to manage other than my party's health and stamina. In some of the longer fights, it could become a real sort of dance where each turn you would yo-yo from red to green. Then there's a reason I started to find it frustrating. Around the halfway point, you fight a boss that is extremely cool because she breaks the overdrive bar. Little bar look like this now. Get used to it. And it's so frustrating because it never happens again. Okay, editing injection here. It had been a bit between beating this game and making this script, so there might be 1 or 2 more enemies or bosses that do change the overdrive bar, but it's very few and far between, if at all. Which sucks, because changing the main combat mechanic we've been getting used to the whole game was a moment of confusion and nervousness. It demanded your attention because now the safe zone you were in is red and you're overheating. It felt like a natural evolution to the combat after playing it for 10 to 15 hours to keep it really fresh. Now, I don't think every fight or even boss should have started changing the overdrive bar, but not knowing when or if a boss could would have made every fight going forward a little bit more intense. I can't really think of a better word for what I'm feeling, sorry. Intense is a good way to describe the story and themes though. This game is intense and covers some intense topics like dealing with grief, working towards forgiveness after doing something horrible, and how far will someone go if the ends justify the means. They aren't questions that are new even for this type of RPG. But the journey the characters go on and the way they develop throughout the game are unique. The characters are a big reason the game kept me interested for the whole playthrough. They are all flawed people who have to overcome their flaws to learn and grow as the story progresses, and you often leave areas and quests not really knowing if you did the right thing in the moment. Like any story, there are some plot points and story beats I think could have been removed or streamlined. There's one story beat in particular where a very surprising choice is made by a character that truly changes the game and story up quite a bit, and it was great. But then right after this, like 2 more less important characters essentially do the same thing, and it feels very silly or contrived. I'm being vague here not to spoil a huge section of the story, but it made me roll my eyes quite a bit. The other major complaint I have is also a complaint I have with most of these types of games. There's always just a section that doesn't need to be in the game, and for Chained Echoes, it's these floating islands. This was the area that made me want to start taking a break from this game. I just didn't really like the story here, the level design here, or the enemies here personally. And the biggest reason I hated this area was these freaking moving platforms here. I hated having to wait for these to get over to me and then wait for them to take me somewhere and then do it all again multiple times every time I needed to traverse this area. This area was a good example of how this game balances its darker stories with the lighter elements though. The new character you get here reminds me a lot of Steiner from FF9, who's a very stoic character and very silly at the same time. Because the whole game isn't serious if I made it sound too much like a broodfest either. There's a good amount of humor in this game to balance out all the war crimes that happen. Because the world they are in is a brutal one. It's a continent of constant war between different flawed monarchies vying for power, all with their own histories and reasonings. Learning about not even this world, but just the continent the game takes place on is a real treat in that way. Volandis is not such a complex world that you feel like you'll need to take notes on it. Like all good works of fiction, a game won't just give you the answers either though. Things are left unexplained or just hinted at, but there's always enough to let you come up with your own theories and ideas about what's happening in the story and world at large. It makes the world feel fleshed out, with endings to quests that give me things to theorize about and things to make me ask if I should have even helped at all. Screw this Goblin Dilemma quest. Side quests are actually a great point in this game as well. Most of them have actual stories with characters attached to them, which shouldn't be high praise for an RPG, but so many have bloat quests that feel unsatisfying to do, that you forget you even did them right after you finished them. Chained Echoes only has like 10 side quests and it's fantastic. Not all of them are great, or even necessarily good, really, but they're all memorable enough and it helped me not get burnt out with the game, trying to get as much content out of my time as I can from it. There's very few things in games that make me more annoyed than content that feels like it shouldn't be there. There's a place for mindless questing and grinding, but a story-driven single-player RPG like this one isn't one of them for me. I play these games for their stories and world, so getting a quest to deal with a pack of wolves can make sense, but it's also extremely boring when you're also fighting those same wolves all the time as a low-level enemy encounter. The side quests aren't the only other thing to do in this game though. There's also this bounty board that has a more standard side quest objectives, and it's a nice system giving you some extra content to get done in every area you go to. And the rewards for doing this bounty board gives you some items you need to unlock the class emblems later on. So even if Chained Echo's small amount of side content is due to it being mostly a solo project or its developer just didn't want to make a ton, I'm happy with the way it turned out. Which brings us to the end of this, whatever this video was. This video is going to be the second in a few of its kind. I already made a video kind of like this with my Tunic one. It's not quite a review and it's not quite an analysis, so if you think I've messed something up or want me to go into more depth about the game or parts of the games and mechanics, let me know. Otherwise, this is all I've got for this. Go play Chained Echoes if you haven't. There's a DLC coming out pretty soon as of the making of this video, and it's well worth the time. It's very good. Other than that, comment and subscribe and like, and bye-bye!